Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day today. Today's video, I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and S&P 500, including the economic calendar. I do post these videos daily on X and YouTube, so double check for the latest video so you have the most up-to-date information. And if you do find this video beneficial towards the end, consider dropping a like. It does help with the channel, so thank you so much for that. Before I get into the technical analysis portion, I'm going to go over the economic calendar first. So for July 3rd, 2024 on Wednesday, at 6:30 a.m., we have New York Fed President John Williams' speech in Portugal. 8:15 a.m., we have ADP employment. 8:30 a.m., we have initial jobless claims, as well as U.S. trade deficit. At 9:45, we have S&P final U.S. services PMI. 10 a.m., we have factory orders, as well as ISM services. And then the most important thing for the day, in my opinion, is minutes of Fed's June FOMC meeting. Given that, I think the markets either could potentially, because we're approaching the all-time highs for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, given that we're approaching all-time highs, we could be dropping down a little bit lower in the beginning part of the day, and especially based off the MACD lines. MACD lines are showing a little bit of a downside for the early part of the day for S&P and Nasdaq. The Dow Jones is a little bit different. The Dow Jones is showing based off 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month more upside based off the MACD lines, which again, like always I've said in the past, MACD lines don't necessarily dictate fully, even though it's showing bearish or bullish movement. That will be the direction for sure. Sometimes the mega cap stocks, like for example Nvidia or Apple, could carry the market in a different direction if they have massive volatility within the trading day. But either way, regardless, in the beginning of the day, due to FOMC meeting anticipation, which is at 2 p.m., the markets could be heading down potentially, and then I'm expecting a bounce up because the markets already, in a way, know what the Fed is, the Fed's direction is for the time being. And given how it's essentially positive for the most part, I expect the markets either to move up for sure by the FOMC meeting, after the FOMC meeting, or move up towards it as well. So we might get a small dip or a big dip in the early part of the day, but essentially move up towards the meeting and then maybe have a little bit dip before the meeting and then after the meeting ultimately move up. But in terms of levels, even if we go to the top in the beginning of the day, the first level is going to be the all-time high previously for the most part of $550 and some change. I'm looking at SPY, which is the ETF for the S&P 500. We closed at $549.01. And again, the all-time high in terms of resistance level will be $550 and some change. Now, in terms of the downside, if the early part of the day does become an issue where we start moving down, we will find, in my opinion, support basically at around the moving average, which is a ballpark of $545 and some change to, $545 and some change on the low side and on the high side. And then if it does come trading down, basically, I don't expect it to come down after the FOMC meeting. That's just my opinion. But if it does come down significantly, I think we'll find a baseline support at $543. And the reason why I'm basing that off of is we've seen multiple times bounce off at $543 range, give or take. And then we've seen resistance as well. So I'm expecting it to act as support this time around coming down to it. And yeah, so there's that. Now, if we do come down to that level of $543 and some change, let's say 542 and some change, and we come back up, we're going to see resistance at the moving average. We see multiple times at this level of resistance as well, within that 545. So it's going to be quite difficult. And then probably by the end of trading day, if we did go down that low, then we'll probably meet resistance again at 548 and maybe not past the all-time high as we've seen. But this is for the SPY. Now for QQQ, same narrative in terms of movement based off the MACD line, but it's a little bit different. We're already at the all-time high level, give or take. Now we did go higher previously, but that was during the pre-market. And then during the actual trading day, it's pretty much met at this level. So multiple touch points at the resistance level. And this resistance level is what we're at right now. Basically, we closed at $486.98, but essentially it's at $487 and some change. But if we go down to the early part of the day, I'm expecting support potentially, depending on how drastic it is, obviously, but essentially expecting support at 482 and some change, all the way to 480 and some change. Now, if it does go down drastically, I'm hoping for support at 475 essentially. Now, this upward trend resistance line is important. This dates back since 2010, but I don't think it will be in play tomorrow personally, but just for the new viewers and just in case, upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010, resistance multiple times. Then we got over it in 2020 to 2022, bounced off support, And then when we got back underneath this upward trend resistance line, had resistance and then broke through. This is where we're at right now. Now, in terms of the additional levels as we were going up, if we do drop down to essentially, for the most part, about the 475, give or take, then we're going to have resistance. You can see pretty much a bunch of times somewhat resistance here and there at the 482. So passing the moving average is going to be difficult, and the 482 is going to be difficult. But I think we'll personally, for Nasdaq specifically, not specifically for SPY, but for QQQ Nasdaq, I think we will probably hit an all-time high tomorrow, because we're already so close to it right now. But that's just my opinion. Now for the Dow Jones, like I stated, it is showing upside instead of downside, so we could just spike up anyway. But again, the FOMC meeting is important in terms of Fed discussion of interest rate and so on and so forth. So I'm expecting a dip still, but I think the moving averages will hold us. So about 38th, we closed at 39,331 points. And if we come down, expecting somewhat of a support at 38,900 points or 39,000 clean. So 39,000 clean or 38,900 points, maybe a little bit of the high 800 points. And then once we start moving up, we'll see the resistance at the previously mentioned at 39,600 points, give or take. 600 and like low points a little bit, probably like 650 points, so on and so forth, but essentially about 39,600 points. And then if the markets in terms of SPY, which is S&P 500, and then QQQ ETF for Nasdaq, start creating all-time highs, both of them, I'm expecting the Dow Jones to follow suit, which the next level would be about 39,800 and on the high side, so almost 39,900, give or take. That's based off of these two past resistance levels and this resistance level right about here, and then potentially support right about here. But resistance here, and then potentially support. So there's that. That's basically it for today's video. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it. If you did find it beneficial and helpful, consider dropping a like. It does help the channel. Thank you so much for that. Consider following, because I do post these videos daily. And like always, I'm not a professional, so please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.